Hi guys, today we are going to be working on our color pencil sphere, and I want to talk to you about choosing your colors before we get started on the actual sphere part. Okay, so first thing to get out of the way, if you were using erasable colored pencils from Crayola or anything like this, you're gonna cry, I'm gonna cry, everybody's gonna cry. These are terrible, and I wanna show you why. Okay, so if I am coloring in here, and I'm coloring nicely and neatly. Do you see this? This is terrible. It doesn't get much better. I can even go in the opposite direction to see if it gets rid of those white spaces. And it absolutely does not. Oh my goodness. Terrible. Okay, so do not use these. They will not turn out well. It will end up affecting your grade because you won't have the texture that you're supposed to be working towards. Okay, so do not use these. Just say no. If you need to borrow some colored pencils from me, you are more than welcome to. They are sitting on my desk, okay, but do not use these. Okay, so now that we have this guy out of the way, we are going to think about some color combinations that we might want to use that are considered analogous. Okay, so for example, I have this set here. It's a light pink, a magenta color, and a red. And I think that this might be a good one. I also think that maybe this turquoise color, it's called aqua green, and then maybe, let's see, blue, and maybe this light green might be good. Okay, so I have a couple of possibilities, but I want to test them out on paper first to make sure they actually go together. Okay, so let's check this pink situation over here. Of course, you want to make sure that they are in color order. So that means maybe lightest to darkest or however it is on the color wheel. Okay, so I'm going to take this lighter color here, this pink. Here's what I think would be my middle color. Okay, and then I have red. I don't know if I like that. Let's check this one out over here. So I have this yellow-green color. And I'm just doing this on a scrap piece of paper in my sketchbook. This turquoise color. And then this blue. That's kind of nice. I still don't know if I like it though. All right, let's see what else we have. I have a navy blue here. Ooh, actually, you know, I think I like this color combination here the best. Yeah, I think that's the one. Okay, so you're gonna look at different color combinations and you wanna of course, make sure that they're in the right order. So for example, you don't want to have orange, yellow, and red. Okay, because yes, yellow, orange, and red are analogous colors. They're in the same color family, okay? But they need to go in this order, this color wheel order, right? So if we look at the color wheel, this is what it looks like, not in this weird order here, okay? And you need to make sure they are actually colors that go together. I had somebody who picked out their colors. They were like orange, green, and blue, and they were like, nailed it. Okay, these are not analogous colors. Green and blue are analogous. Orange is on the opposite side of the color wheel. Okay, so it's extremely important to make sure you have that correct. If you don't have it correct, or you're not totally sure, double check with me, double check with your neighbor. You can send me a message on Canvas with a picture of your colors that you think might work out for this. Okay, but definitely double check with somebody so that you don't end up with a sphere that is incorrect. Okay, so I've made my color decision. I'm going with these colors right here. It's a navy blue, a regular blue, and an aqua green color, okay? And that was those 3 colors right here, not this green up here. Didn't like him, but these 3 down here. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to my sphere, okay? And you're going to take the cup and you're going to lightly trace around it. Now, right now, my circle is lightly traced, but it's still a little bit dark, so I'm going to lighten that up really quick. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm lightly erasing my pencil line here. Okay, just so that it's as light as possible. I don't want to have any pencil outline in the end of things. I want it to all be able to blend in. Okay, so it's very, very light. You guys can kind of barely see it here. Okay, I'm actually going to lighten this up just a tiny bit more, but I can still see it. That's what counts. So same thing for you guys. Okay, now I have my colors in the order that they should go in analogous order or color wheel order. And I'm going to start with my lightest color first. Okay, I'm going to use the lightest possible pressure while I'm coloring this in, while I'm shading it in. Okay, but the first thing I want to do is I want to imagine where my highlight is coming from. Okay, I always default to it coming from the right side, the top right side. Okay, so I'm going to have a highlight here that I'm going to very, very softly, like just barely put it in. Okay, can you even see that? Can you see it? It's so light. Okay, well, regardless, I can see it, and that it should be the same on your paper. It should be so, so light. Okay, so that's where the lightest part is going to be. And I'm going to shade in the whole sphere with my lightest color as light as possible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in my hand the same way we do with our graphite pencils. I'll have my hand here. I put it at the spot or the joint where it separates from your hand to your fingers. Okay, and then we clench or hold on to this, right? I'm going to move my index finger here, and then I'm going to move these fingers out of the way so they're more like this. That way when I flip it over, my fingers aren't underneath of it because that's gross feeling to me. It feels really weird, but then I can get closer to the paper here. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm just going to start shading in so lightly my first layer. Okay, and I want to go super lightly and slow and steady because while I'm doing this, I want to avoid any mistakes. Okay, so anytime you start to rush or you start to press too hard, you are more likely to make mistakes. Okay, and so I'm doing my kind of oblong shape here every single time. Okay, and I'm just shading in this whole thing right here. This whole time. Okay, do you see how it's starting to kind of fill in there? So I will fill this whole thing in just like this. Oh my gosh, I went over my I went over my highlight area. Okay, plan B, I'm gonna turn this to the side. I'm gonna redraw that, maybe a tiny bit darker just so I don't accidentally not see it. Okay, wow, I feel really silly. Can you believe I did that, guys? All right. Wasn't I just say be careful not to make mistakes? I'm living it, guys, I'm living it. Okay, so I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna be very careful. Maybe I'll go ahead and shade around my highlight that I drew in just so I don't lose it again. I feel really silly. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now, I'm gonna finish my first layer. I'm only doing one single layer, okay? And I will be right back. Okay, so first layer is done. And one of the things I find personally annoying about layering with colored pencil is that the first layer just always looks really sketchy to me and I hate it, but it's going to get better here in just a little bit. Okay, so I've already done one layer here. I'm going to use the same color, Okay, I covered the whole thing. Notice I still have my highlight up here. Okay, and I'm gonna go over it again on this bottom half just a tiny bit more. Okay, so I'm kind of just going over it. I'm still using a light pressure. I'm just adding another layer to it. Okay, and one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to just go straight across this way. You want to follow the outside shape of the object that you're shading in. Okay, this is called contour shading. So whenever I am shading in my sphere here, I'm following this outer shape, okay, this kind of outline almost, and it's basically going to end up like a C shape like this, but that's what makes your sphere look more realistic, is if you have contour shaded. Okay, so I'm just adding another layer here, still going medium. Some of it's getting a little bit darker just because I have a second layer on there. Okay, but I'm just kind of doing this to help smooth it out. Okay, now I'm going to shade in the kind of opposite direction going this way as well. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind, especially while you're adding more colors and darker colors, that as long as you're essentially still going, your pencil isn't going in the C shape, but your actual shading shape is in the C, right? So if I'm shading up here and then I bring it down here, it's still staying kind of in that C shape because I'm getting smaller as I go here. Okay, that's something that can kind of help you with blending, but also you're still maintaining that roundness. Okay, now, obviously, I'm not totally done with this color yet, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to my middle color. Okay, and for me, my middle color is just a plain blue. And I'm going to start on the outside and work my way up just a little bit. Okay, so again, I'm keeping the C shape. I'll probably start at about here and move all the way around to this side, like this. Okay, and again, I'm just using light pressure because the act of adding layers itself will make things a little bit darker and a little bit more saturated. Okay, so we don't need to really press down just yet. We want to exercise caution. The other reason why you want to exercise caution while you're doing this is because it's harder to erase if you mess up, right? If you're using just regular pencil, it's easier to kind of erase and get rid of what you were working on, but with colored pencil, because they're so waxy, it's much harder to do that. Okay, so bring this out here. All the way around here. So I'm getting a nice blend already. Okay, and I'm still taking care not to press too hard. If you notice, I've been rotating my my paper around here. I think that helps me maintain consistency with my right hand. That way I don't have to keep switching hand position or anything like that. Okay, and so I'm starting to bring this up here a little bit further. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go in with another layer. I'm going to press a little bit harder, just a tiny bit harder. So instead of using a very light pressure, I'm using a medium light pressure here to add another layer to it. And I'm just slowly building this up. Trying to keep that nice smooth coloring there. Okay, so if you look at this, even though I only have a few layers and I haven't even used all of my colors yet, it's really starting to kind of come together. You can see a shaded sphere happening. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to add some more layers here. And again, I'm just slowly building things up. All right, now I kind of have a weird line going here. I'm going to go back and blend this out just a tiny bit. Go back using some super light pressure. All right, now I'm going to go in with my darkest color, which for me is navy blue, and I'm going to start on the absolute outside first. Anytime I switch colors and anytime I start applying a new pressure or I've picked my pencil up off my paper, I always like to start with the darkest side first, because for me, whenever I put my pencil down, I think that I'm going to be using a certain pressure, but sometimes it varies a little bit. So sometimes I'm like, I'm going to use light pressure, and I use light pressure, but I'm like, ooh, I need to back that off a little bit. That was not as light as I thought. Okay, but if you start with the part that's the darkest, then you're kind of always safe, right? So I'm going to start here, which is where this actually goes anyway. Okay, but then if I accidentally press a little harder than I thought I was going to, or than what I had intended, it's not a huge deal because it's in the darkest part. Kind of a little safety tip there for you so you don't make any mistakes on that regard. Okay, so I'm going around the darkest section. Okay, and for this one, I'm kind of using a light, maybe a medium light pressure in some area. One of the things I want to keep in mind though is anytime I start moving closer to the lightest section of my sphere, I want to lighten my pressure up. So up here, I'm adding a layer, but it is so light. And then down here, I can press more of a medium light. Okay, because it's going to be darker anyway. So I'm just slowly building this up. Just like this. Okay, so it's really starting to come together. Now, of course, we need a lot more layers to this, and we need a lot more saturation, which those layers will help with. Okay, but I have a pretty good placement so far. Okay, one of the things you want to keep in mind, no matter what your colors are, so my colors kind of go like light to dark instead of like yellow, orange, red, but no matter how your colors are, you always want to bring your lightest color all the way back to this part of your sphere because it's going to make it look more cohesive and more unified and less stripy. We definitely don't want to end up with something that looks stripy. Okay, so having those layers, having your lightest color go all the way back here and then your medium color go all the way back here is going to help make it look a lot more realistic. Okay, so we're going to pause here for now. I will make a second video going on to my next few layers. I think it's just a little bit easier to kind of take a break. Okay, so in the next video, we'll go over adding some more layers and start bringing this into a more saturated place. Okay.